What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down my throwing motion. So we're going to be talking about my throwing mechanics, some of the bad habits I used to have as a player, some of the things that I tried to pretty much correct with my motion still to this day. Any time that I really throw, I obviously don't really play anymore, but still when you throw to receivers or you're throwing with quarterbacks, you're always kind of trying to work on little mechanical aspects of your game, which can make you a better coach. So I hope it's able to help. Hope this can clear up some of the problems that maybe you guys have or maybe you've had in the past, and just kind of know where I'm coming from and know the experience that I've had with throwing mechanics, because I probably had every single bad habit in the book. So I'm going to play my throwing motion full speed so you guys can kind of see it if you haven't seen it before, and then we'll go ahead and start breaking it down. So I think one of the worst habits that I had as a player was I had very bad weight distribution with my legs. I had a very big front stride from years of playing baseball and coaches not necessarily really correcting that. And then a really wide base, and I would take my front elbow and I'd pull it down as a source of power. So I'd have this really high release point, like pretty much every bad habit that you can think of, you guys. And again, it's one of those things as an athlete, you could be a really, really coachable athlete, but if you're not getting proper coaching and you're buying into something that's maybe not the most mechanically sound or most mechanically efficient, it could actually hurt your game. So that's kind of what I want to try to explain to you guys today. So anytime that you guys throw, you always want to think of your throwing sequence like a baseball swing. Quarterbacks, baseball players, when you're hitting at least, and then tennis players, golfers, we're all rotational athletes. And rotational athletes all have to throw with something called the kinetic sequence, or like a kinetic chain, or a throwing sequence. And that throwing sequence should go like this. It should go stride. Well, first things first, it should go base, then the stride should get down, then the hips should rotate through, then the ball should rotate through. That is achieved through a concept called upper body and lower body dissociation. And it's also achieved, upper body and lower body dissociation has something called torque involved. That creates torque, and that's what we want as a passer. So think of it like a baseball swing. Let's say you're holding a baseball bat, pitcher throws you a pitch, you take a step to the pitcher, you still keep the bat back here, right? That's dissociation. Your front foot is stepping to the pitcher while the bat is back here. And then what do? You squish the back bug, your hip fires through, and then the bat trails behind. And that bat trailing behind, that's torque, you guys. When the hips fire the upper body through, that's torque. And that's what we want to achieve as a quarterback. So that starts with your throwing base. This is something that I struggled with as a player. I would always have a ton of weight onto my front side. So if I was throwing, if this was back when I was in high school, I would have the opposite base right now. You see how I have probably 65, 70% of weight on my back leg? I'd actually have 65, 70% of my weight on my front leg. So obviously think of it like a baseball swing. If you have all that weight onto your front side, will you have any power when you take a step to the pitcher? No, because your shoulders are going forward, your back foot is way behind you, your hips are trailing behind you. It's just an arm swing, if that makes sense. We want to try to achieve the same thing as a quarterback. So it starts with your weight being back. Very, very similar to how baseball players are in the batter's box. I call it getting stacked. You want your head, your knee, and your foot stacked on top of each other. So with my younger guys, what I'll refer to as is a skyscraper. So you want to be in a skyscraper position. Now, the reason why you want to have weight on your back leg is because you want to take that weight and transfer it to your front leg. But also the reason you want to have weight on your back leg is that allows you to get to that dissociation. So when your weight is loaded on your back leg, when you take a stride to the target, you want to try to keep weight here for as long as possible. What I tell my QBs is you want to pretend that there's a flashlight on your knee, and that flashlight should be pointed towards the sideline when your front foot starts to make contact with the ground. You keeping weight on your back leg allows you to rotate your front shoulder back. So you see how I take the football back like this, but you see how the back of my left shoulder is kind of turning towards the target. That right there, when your front foot's down and your shoulders are going this way, that's dissociation. That's the first part of the sequence that you want to get to. Now, it's impossible to achieve, though, with the base that I used to have back when I played quarterback, or back in high school at least, when I had those bad habits. Because when your weight's forward and you step to the target, you physically can't rotate your shoulders through. So your left shoulder is actually going this way. I had a coach that would tell me you want to spread the chest open, which is where when your front foot gets down, you want to open up your front shoulder and you want to spread. You want to spread both arms to 90 degrees, which is the most mechanically like dumb thing you could possibly do, because you're really just forcing the ball with your shoulders at that point. You want to make sure your front foot is down like a baseball swing and your shoulders are going back, taking the football back. Think of this like your baseball bat. You're just separating your hands and getting to some type of backstroke position. So that's ultimately what we want to shoot for at the first part of the sequence. Now, what about the second part of the sequence? Now, before we break that down though, fellas, if you're a quarterback watching this or a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're going to be traveling out to 7 more cities across the entire country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps, you guys. So fellas, go to that very first link in the description below if you're interested and if you would like to sign up. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Newark, New Jersey. Then we'll be heading out to Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas. That camp is completely sold out. Then we'll be heading out to Boston, then Columbus, then Boise, and then Los Angeles, California. Columbus and Houston are sold out. You guys, and the rest of our camps will sell out as well, probably within the next week or so. We have literally about 3 to 4 spots left remaining in each one of our available states. Our first 8 camps completely sold out. They sold out probably 2 months in advance. So guys, make sure you take advantage of this before all of our spots are gone. So go to that very first link in the description below. That's where you could sign up, and we would love to have you there. So let's get back to this video. So we talked about the first part of the sequence here. Now, this is again where I struggled. So a lot of times, like if I was throwing like a deeper throw, what I would do is I would get to my back leg sometimes, especially if I'm throwing a deeper ball. But the issue was that I would push off of my back foot for power. Guys, your back foot does not give you power. What gives us power is our hips and transferring our weight from quad to quad, right? So a lot of times what I would do is I would push off of the like inside arch of my back foot. And when I push off of that inside arch, what would happen is all of my weight would end up shifting to my front leg. So it'd be no different than when I would have weight onto my front leg in my throwing base. So what you guys have to think, fellas, is you got to think step and then rotate. You don't want to think push. We never want to be a linear passer. We want to be a rotational passer. And this is a habit that I had to get out of back when I was a player, because when I was a player, that is what was taught. There really wasn't much information out there about using your hips, being able to rotate, dissociation, and efficient throwing, right? So when that front foot gets down, notice how, like again, like I said, knee is pointed towards the sideline. We were trying to keep my shin straight. We were trying to keep my weight back as the front foot makes contact. And now we're in that dissociation position. So what brings us through now is my hips. So this is something that a lot of quarterbacks struggle with. What they try to do is they try to drive just their back hip. And this is something that I always did as a player. Like as I got older in my career, you start to get that, like, you know, more quarterback coaches are talking about hips. You see more QBs on like, you know, like on TV talking about hips, and you start researching stuff and, you know, like, okay, I got to rotate at my hips. But it's not just about driving your back hip. A lot of QBs, what they do is they like try to just drive this back hip through, and their back foot ends up going really wide. They don't actually rotate. What we want is we want internal hip rotation. You want to try to bring your right knee close to your left knee as you rotate through, and you want your front hip to open up. A lot of guys, like, they ask me like, hey, should I think front hip opening or back hip driving? You should think front hip opening, because that will drive your back hip naturally. So what I started to think more about, you guys, like when that foot got down, I started thinking more like, hey, don't push off of your back leg. Don't push off your foot. Don't even drive your back hip. Just open up here. And when you start to open up at that front hip, when that front hip starts to go, that starts to drive the back hip. And then obviously the knee to knee is coming through. The goal position, and this is something that I never got to as a player, the goal position is you want this back hip here, and you want the elbow, and you want the football trailing behind. Now, obviously I have a very high release, right? A lot of QB coaches nowadays teach like you want the lower arm slot. And honestly, I'm not opposed to that. Like if I train a kid and he has a lower arm slot, I'm not generally going to try to correct it. I just used to have a really bad problem of my left elbow swinging down. Like it would come down to my hip. And so my release would actually be higher than this. So that would cause me to miss high, sail throws, miss low sometimes. And so I think it's just muscle memory. That's just how I throw the ball now from just years of doing that. I'm sure I could correct it if I put the time in. But again, I'm not playing you guys. It's one of those things that you guys might see and be like, okay, well, you have a really high release. No, like if you have a lower release than this, that's probably more efficient, I would say. It's just I have this really, really high release from years and years of this front elbow dropping down. Where I finish now, you see how my hands up by like my collarbone, kind of up by my face, and I keep my shoulders and my hips for the most part pretty level to the target. That's not how I used to finish. I used to finish with that elbow way down here. My left shoulder would be almost pointed towards this fence over here. So it's just years and years of that muscle memory in my shoulder. That's what I would say. Now, Again, though, fellas, the goal, every single quarterback throws the ball differently. Every quarterback has a different height, a different weight, a different body type. Some have more muscles than others, or more muscle mass than others, I should say. Like, the sequence is what we're shooting for. All the things that I told you about with your weight staying back, front foot getting down, front hip opening up, like those are the things that you should focus on as a passer, and that will make you more efficient. Like my philosophy with quarterbacks is just strictly that. We focus on base, we focus on stride while keeping your weight back, we focus on dissociation, and then hip spring and the shoulders through. And as you teach it as a coach, you get better yourself because obviously like you're not going to like throw one way and then teach another. You know what I mean? So this is a perfect example of you guys are just like kind of an evolution of a throwing motion, some of the mistakes that a lot of quarterbacks make, but just make sure, fellas, we are letting our hips bring the shoulders through. We're keeping our weight back when we take a stride. And if you focus on those mechanical things, no matter how you take the ball back, no matter what your body type is, I feel you will be a more efficient passer.